Welcome back, traveler. Tonight, we drift into the world of Norse myth, a place of sharp mountains and colder stars, of great trees that whisper across time, and gods who know that even they are not forever. This is not a story of heroes winning or of monsters being vanquished. Not really. This is a story about endings. The Norse called it Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Not an apocalypse in the modern sense, but a cycle, a great unmaking, a falling away of all things, old and mighty. Even the gods themselves would not survive it. But before that final moment, there was a long silence, a waiting, a series of signs, soft and slow, that foretold the inevitable. In this episode, we will hear those signs. We will walk with the wolf who sleeps in chains and the trickster buried beneath the earth. We will hear the creaking of a world tree in pain and see the quiet building of the ship that will one day carry death to the shores of the gods. It will not be loud, it will not come quickly, but it will come. So now, rest easy. Let the end of the world unfold slowly, like snow falling on distant hills. We begin, as the Norse always did, with a vision. In the beginning, there was darkness, not emptiness, but a deep, unmeasured stillness, as though the world was holding its breath. From this stillness came a woman. Her name is not spoken often, and her tale is not one of battles or thrones. She was called a vulva, a seeress, one who could see what others could not. Not just the past, but what lay ahead. She lived far from the halls of men and gods, at the edge of the world, in a place where silence lingered like fog. She did not seek company. She did not offer comfort. But her knowledge was deep, woven like a tapestry of frost and ash. One day, the god Odin came to her. He traveled not as a king or warrior, but as a wanderer, cloak pulled tight, his single eye shining with questions. He had given up much for wisdom already, a piece of himself to drink from the well of Mimir, and countless years in pursuit of secrets buried beneath the roots of the world. But even the Allfather could not see the end clearly, and so he came to the vulva. Some say he raised her from the grave. Others say she had never truly died, only waited, as old things often do. She greeted him without warmth, and then, slowly, she began to speak, not in commands or prophecy, but in verse, a slow, winding language that was part dream, part memory. She spoke of a time before time, when giants roamed and gods had not yet built their halls. She spoke of Yggdrasil, the great world tree, whose roots drank from the past, and whose branches touched all futures. She spoke of the shaping of the world, and the shaping of its end. There would be signs, she said, quiet ones at first. The sun would grow dim, the stars would vanish from the sky, brothers would turn on brothers, oaths would be broken, the wind would howl through empty fields. Then a great winter would come, 3 in a row with no summer between. Snow piling high, rivers frozen deep, and hunger gnawing at every door. And while the world above fell into silence, the world below would begin to stir. The great wolf, Fenrir, would snap his bonds. The ship, Naglfar, built from the nails of the dead, would rise from the mist. Loki, bound in torment beneath the earth, would break free. The dead would march. The gods would gather. And in the final clash, there would be no triumph, only loss. Odin would face Fenrir and fall. Thor would slay the world serpent, only to stagger 9 steps and collapse. Fire would consume Asgard. The seas would swallow the land. And still, the seeress did not raise her voice, because in her telling, this was not a tragedy. It was simply the way of things. Even gods, she said, must die. Even the sky must fall, but from the ashes something new would stir, a field green with life, two humans, quiet and hidden, stepping out into the morning, and the cycle would begin again. Odin listened. He said little. What could he say, knowing that every step he took from that moment on would carry him closer to a fate he could not avoid? He thanked her, or perhaps he didn't, and then he returned to his seat among the gods, carrying the weight of what he now knew. The vulva returned to silence, but her words remained, echoing in the halls of memory, like distant thunder in a still sky. In the time before the end, the gods were already afraid. They did not speak of it openly. They still feasted in the halls of Asgard, still hunted through forests of golden trees, still threw their spears and told their stories. But beneath the surface of things, fear had begun to bloom. It began with a pup. The wolf was born to Loki, the trickster god, and a giantess from the edge of the world. His name was Fenrir. At first, he was small enough to cradle in one arm. But even as a cub, there was something in his eyes the gods did not understand. Something old, something certain. The Norns, the weavers of fate, had whispered, this wolf would one day swallow Odin himself. And so the gods watched Fenrir grow. They tried to keep him close. They brought him into their shining realm, Asgard, hoping that proximity might soften fate. He played with the godlings. He followed Tyr, the god of law and bravery, like a shadow. He was clever, curious, loyal even, but still, he grew. What once had fit between two hands now towered above horses. His teeth were mountains. His voice echoed like distant thunder. And the gods began to plan. They would bind him, they decided, gently, subtly, as a game. The first chain they forged was thick, iron-heavy. They called Fenrir over, laughing, asking if he could break it. He did, effortlessly. They forged another, stronger, quicker, wrapped in runes and threats. He broke that too, and so they turned to the dwarves, those secret smiths beneath the earth. The dwarves forged something different, a ribbon, silken, soft, light as a breath, but it was made from impossible things. The sound of a cat's footfall, the roots of a mountain, the breath of a fish. It could not be undone by force. The gods returned to Fenrir with this final thread. He narrowed his eyes. It was too light, too gentle. He sensed the trap, and so he agreed. But only if one of the gods placed their hand in his mouth as a sign of good faith. Only Tyr stepped forward. As the ribbon tightened, Fenrir realized what they had done. He twisted, thrashed, snapped, but the binding held, and Tyr lost his hand. The gods stepped back. The wolf howled, once, a sound so deep that the stones shuddered. And then he lay down. He sleeps still, they say, bound in a hidden place, deep beneath the earth. A sword rests between his jaws, holding them apart. His drool forms rivers. His muscles twitch in dreaming. But one day, the thread will snap. The sword will fall, and the wolf will wake. He does not rage in his sleep. He does not growl. He simply waits, because his role in the story is already written. Even he knows it. But for now, the world above turns slowly. The sky remains whole, and Fenrir remains still. Now, close your eyes. Let the growl fade into stillness. Let the breath of the wolf become your own. Sleep softly, and dream without bindings. There are few names spoken more often in Norse myth than Loki. He is not easily defined. He is not a god of war, or of harvest, or of the sea. He is a shapeshifter, a trickster, a presence that slides between laughter and cruelty, like a shadow slipping across stone. In the early days, he walked among the gods of Asgard freely. He dined at their tables, rode in their chariots, and helped solve their problems, though often those problems had been of his own making. Loki was clever, always, and that made him dangerous. But the gods tolerated him, even liked him sometimes, because he made them laugh, because he found solutions when others could not, because, though unpredictable, he was useful. But over time, the laughter faded. It began with small betrayals, whispered insults, ill-timed tricks, and then something darker. Loki's children were born of strange unions, a serpent so vast it could encircle the world, a wolf destined to devour the Allfather, a daughter who ruled the dead. Each was removed, hidden, contained. Still, Loki remained, until he crossed a final line, not with magic or mischief, but with blood. It was at the feast of the gods. The mead flowed freely. The golden hall was bright with firelight, and Loki, uninvited, arrived. He accused, he mocked, he revealed secrets. Old wounds were open, and pride was wounded. Still, the gods held their peace. But it was what came after that changed everything. Balder, the most beloved of the gods, had died, killed not by Loki's hand directly, but through his planning. A trick, a blind spot, a dart of mistletoe, guided by innocence and cruelty alike. The gods mourned, and Loki laughed. He fled then, disguised himself, hid in the mountains. Some say he built himself a house with 4 doors, facing each wind, that he transformed into a fish by night and listened to the wind by day. But the gods found him. They dragged him from his hiding place and took him to a deep cave beneath the earth, far from sky, from starlight, from sound. There they laid him upon the stones. They took his son, Vali, and transformed him into a wolf who tore apart his own brother, Narfi. From Narfi's entrails they fashioned chains. Loki was bound. Above his head they hung a serpent, its fangs dripping venom, and beside him his wife, Sigyn, stood with a bowl. She caught the venom before it could strike. But when the bowl filled, she had to empty it. And in that moment, when the bowl was gone, when the poison fell, Loki writhed, his body arched, his mouth opened in pain. His screams shook the earth. They say this is why the ground trembles. Loki does not die. He does not sleep. He lies there, waiting. And when Ragnarok comes, his bonds will break. His screams will turn to laughter again, and he will rise, changed and unchanged, to lead the fire against the gods. But until that day, he waits in silence. The cave is cold. The shadows do not speak. The serpent drips its poison drop by drop, and time passes as slow as stone weeping. This is not a story of vengeance or justice. Not really. It is a story of stillness. Even the wildest flame can be buried beneath the earth, but not forever. Now, rest. Let the stone settle around you. Let the fire grow small. There is nothing to fear. The bindings hold, for now. In the early days of Asgard, before the world had fully settled into its shape, the gods sought to fortify their realm. They had seen what chaos could do, what giants could become, and they knew that the time would come when enemies would press against their gates. So they decided to build a wall, a high wall, a strong wall, one that would protect them from all that threatened beyond the horizon. But they did not wish to build it themselves. And so, when a stranger appeared, a master builder, tall and hooded, offering to complete the entire fortification in a single season, the gods listened. His price, however, was steep. He asked for the hand of Freya, the goddess of beauty and desire, and he asked for the sun and the moon. The gods were horrified, but Loki, as always, had an answer. Let him try, he said. Let him work, but give him an impossible deadline. The wall must be finished in a single winter without the help of any man. If he fails, he gets nothing. If he succeeds, they would keep their word. The builder agreed, and so he began. But he was not alone. His horse, a great stallion named Svadilfari, was no ordinary beast. With strength unmatched and speed beyond reckoning, the stallion hauled massive stones, day and night, barely pausing to rest. The builder guided him, but it was the horse who did the work. The gods watched in growing concern. As the final days of winter approached, it became clear he might actually succeed. The wall rose higher each day. The gates were nearly finished. The impossible was becoming real. And so, once again, the gods turned to Loki. Fix this, they said. And Loki vanished. On the final night before the deadline, as the builder led Svadilfari toward the quarry to fetch one last load of stone, a strange sound echoed through the trees. A soft whinny. From the shadows emerged a mare, graceful, silver-maned, eyes gleaming with something between mischief and invitation. The stallion stopped. The builder shouted, pulled, cursed, but it was no use. Svadilfari bolted into the woods, chasing the mare through the dark. The builder ran after them, but the dawn came too quickly, and the final stone was never placed. He failed. The gods, satisfied, revealed his true identity, a giant in disguise. Thor arrived and ended the matter with a single blow from his hammer. As for the mare and the stallion, some months later, Loki returned. He did not speak of what had happened in the woods. He did not laugh. He simply brought with him a foal, 8-legged, sleek, unnatural. This was Sleipnir, the swiftest of all horses, a gift to Odin, born not from war or love, but from necessity. Loki had given more than words to save the gods from their own bargain. He had become the mare. He had carried the child. He had brought forth something strange and new, even by his own standards. And so, the wall of Asgard stood, tall, impenetrable, but not truly safe. For the enemy had not yet come. The wall was strong, but the fate of gods was not written in stone. Now let the hooves fade into the distance. Let the gallop grow quiet. The wall still stands. Sleep behind it, and let the wind carry your dreams. There is a bridge in Norse myth, bright, arched, and strange. It is called Bifrost, and it hums quietly across the sky like a thread of living light. Not quite rainbow, not quite flame. A shimmer stretched between the world of men and the home of the gods. But it is not just a road. It is a threshold, and where thresholds exist, someone must watch them. At the far end of Bifrost, where it touches the golden gates of Asgard, stands a solitary figure, Heimdall. He does not move much. He does not shout. Among all the gods, Heimdall is the quietest and perhaps the most enduring. He is the watcher. In the beginning, he was not loud or glorious. His story starts in silence, born of 9 mothers, perhaps sea maidens, perhaps waves, who brought him forth to be something in between. Not fully of the gods, not fully of the giants, balanced. He was gifted with sight that could pierce the furthest fog, hearing so sharp that he could detect the fall of a feather in another realm. He could hear grass growing, wool stretching on a sheep's back, and so he was placed at the edge of Asgard, at the edge of everything, to watch and to wait. He carries a great horn, Gjallarhorn, and it rests beside him, always, coiled in quiet. It has never been used, but it will be. When Ragnarok comes, it is Heimdall who will sound the first note, not in panic, not in fear, but as the fulfillment of his long vigil. Until then, he remains at his post. He sees what others do not. Shifts in the wind, shadows at the edge of thought, the quiet building of storm. He knows the world is not at peace. He sees the great wolf stir in his sleep, hears the whispers of Loki beneath the earth, senses the tension in the branches of Yggdrasil. But he does not cry out, because it is not time yet. Heimdall is the god of anticipation, of patience, of the moment before. He stands where realms meet, where chaos might come, but hasn't yet, where endings approach, but are not yet written. When the final day comes, Heimdall will be the one to lift his horn. Its sound will roll through the 9 realms like thunder rising from the sea. The dead will wake, the gods will ready their arms, and the bridge he guards will tremble with the weight of invasion. And then Heimdall will meet Loki in battle, 2 opposites, one ever watching, the other ever slipping, and they will fall together, not in hatred, but because that is how the story must end. But not yet. For now, the bridge is unbroken, the horn is silent, and Heimdall watches. Even gods must sleep, but Heimdall remains awake so that others may rest. So now, let your eyes close. Let the shimmer of the bridge fade softly from view. He watches the threshold. You don't have to. Sleep, and let the horn remain quiet. Deep in the realm of the dead, beneath the roots of the world tree, there is a ship. It does not float on any known sea. It does not carry living crew. It waits, always just beneath the surface of memory, half formed in mist and silence. Its name is Naglfar, the ship of nails. In Norse myth, the dead do not vanish. They gather, and they bring with them pieces, remnants from the bodies they once carried. Fingernails, toenails, scraps cast off in life, trimmings swept aside, forgotten, but not by the gods, and not by Hel, the daughter of Loki, who rules the realm of the forgotten dead. Hel watches quietly as these remnants accumulate, and the ship grows. Naglfar is not built with hammer and nail, but with time and decay. It is shaped slowly, like frost on a window, like ivy curling around stone. Every uncut nail, every unburied fragment feeds it, adds to its mass, gives it form. The gods knew of it. They whispered warnings. Burn the dead properly, they said. Clean their bodies. Clip their nails. Because if you didn't, the pieces would find their way to the ship. No storm carries it. No sail unfurls. But when Ragnarok comes, and the sky cracks, and the seas rise, Naglfar will be ready. It will break free from Hel's realm, severed from its moorings of fog and sorrow, and ride the floodwaters to the realm of the gods. At its helm will be Loki, no longer bound, no longer hidden. He will guide it forward like a revenant rising from a broken oath, steering a ship made of the carelessness of the living, and on board will be the dead, not the honored ones who feast in Valhalla, the others, the forgotten, the quiet, those who died in fear, in sickness, in cold, those who were never remembered with song or stone. Their hands grip the railings, their eyes are blank. They do not seek revenge, they do not cry out, they simply come. There is no battle cry from Naglfar, no call to arms, only silence and the soft groan of the ship's hull creaking with every wave. This is not a warship, it is a consequence, a vessel of accumulation. What was discarded becomes its foundation. What was overlooked becomes its power. The gods prepared their walls, their weapons, their warriors. But they forgot what happens when the quiet dead begin to move. Still. For now, Naglfar waits. It does not drift. It does not stir. It rests in the depths, unfinished, awaiting the last few nails to complete its form. And in that waiting there is calm, because the ship does not hurry. It knows its time will come. So now, listen to the stillness of the harbor. Let the sails stay furled. Let the tide be slow. There is no escape from Ragnarok. It is not a war that might be avoided, not a crisis to be solved. In Norse myth, Ragnarok is not an if, it is a when. The gods knew this. They heard it whispered by the Norns, woven into the roots of the world tree. They saw it in the eyes of the dead, in the quiet of long winters, in the slow decay of things once thought eternal. The end had been written at the beginning, but still they lived. Still they laughed and fought and drank their mead in the halls of Asgard. Because what else was there to do? The first sign came quietly, a winter unlike any before. Not one season, but 3, back to back, no thaw, no sun. Just snow piled high, winds that bit deep, and skies that remained the color of iron. Men turned against each other. Brothers drew swords. Fathers forgot sons. The warmth between people grew cold, and while Midgard shivered, the old bindings began to loosen. Fenrir, the great wolf, tore his fetters apart. His breath was fire. His roar split the air like a crack in stone. Jörmungandr, the world's serpent, stirred from the sea, its body uncoiling, scales glinting beneath stormlight. As it rose, the oceans swelled and poured across the land. The sky broke, and Naglfar, the ship of nails, set sail. Loki stood at its helm, no longer bound, no longer hidden. He guided it through the fog, his face unreadable, toward the field where fate would unfold. In Asgard, Heimdall lifted his horn. Its sound rang out across the 9 realms, not as a call to glory, but as a simple truth. The time had come. The gods assembled. Odin, cloaked and solemn, rode at the head, his spear in hand, his ravens circling, though even they had no good news to share. Thor, his hammer heavy with storm, walked beside him. Freya, bright and fated. Tyr, silent. Frigg, watching. They knew what was written. On the great plain of Vigrid, they met their end. Odin fell to Fenrir, swallowed whole in the jaws of inevitability. Thor slew the world's serpent, striking again and again, until the beast lay still. But the poison had already touched him. He staggered 9 steps and fell. Freya fought Surt, the fire giant, without his sword. The blade he had given away long ago for love. He too was lost. Loki and Heimdall found each other at last, trickster and sentinel. 2 forces shaped by opposition. They fought. They died. All around them, the world collapsed. The sky cracked open. Fire swept across the land. The oceans surged forward. Mountains sank into themselves. The branches of Yggdrasil trembled and groaned, and somewhere, deep beneath, Nidugr feasted on the roots. Everything ended. And yet, there is a quiet part of the myth, a whisper after the storm, that says the story does not truly stop. After the fire, after the flood, a new world will rise. Green fields, unscarred by war. A sun brighter than before. 2 humans, Lif and Lifthrazir, will emerge from the shelter of Yggdrasil's roots and walk once more beneath an open sky. The gods may fall, but the world remembers how to begin again. Perhaps that is the real meaning of Ragnarok. Not doom, but release. The letting go of what must pass so that something else might come into being. Now close your eyes. The storm has passed. The halls are quiet. There is nothing more to lose, and nothing left to fear. Let the world end softly in your mind. Let sleep be your new beginning. You've walked a long path tonight, through frost-covered silence and the slow turning of fate. You've met gods who waited and monsters who slept. You've stood beside watchers, beneath ancient trees, and at the edge of the world where even the sun forgets to rise. You've seen the end, and yet you are still here, because the stories don't end with fire. They end with quiet, with reflection, with the soft certainty that even endings are part of something larger. Ragnarok was never meant to terrify. It was meant to remind that nothing lasts forever, and that's okay. That even the gods must fall, that even the strongest walls give way, that after the flood, there is still earth beneath the water. And so now, let the echoes of these stories settle. Let the world go dark, not in fear, but in peace. There is nothing left to fight, no threads to follow, no horns to sound, only rest. Sleep well, traveller. The end is over now, and a new dream begins.